Hello, it's Ray. And it's been about a year since I had to come back from uni because of the pandemic. It's actually a bit more than a year, but it has been close to a year since I've last seen my friends. I attend university in a very different part of the country to where I live, so I have a place there. And because of the pandemic, I had to move back to my parents' place to stay or out survive the remainder of the pandemic that still hasn't really come to a close in my country. We're still mostly closed, and our university is and has been and continues to be online. So amidst a lot of work, I made the decision, because I was vaccinated and everything, to go see my friends about a week ago. I am back now, but that week I was pretty much stuck inside this room that I have, other than when I was seeing my friends, obviously, but I was stuck inside this room, and it made me think about how much power atmosphere has. Because it's November and I live in a country where it doesn't snow, there is a lot of rain wherever you go. This is the view outside of my place. And when I was looking at it, I could not help but think how incredibly close knit the atmosphere of this scene was. Even though it's super mundane, that window right there casting the light, or that light right there, or this pole light here reflecting all the light, was all acting together to create this scenery of a very wet and dark environment. And when I thought about this more, I realized that a lot of the art I had seen that I'd really like pieces from Bob Ross or some really cool concept art pieces from game design studios, or even just gameplay stuff that is super stylized, make me feel the same way. So today I wanted to try my hand at creating something that reflected the atmosphere of a reference. I'm going to use one reference for this, which is unlikely of me, but this time I want to be as accurate as possible. We are going to be using Photoshop 2021 for this. Unlike my normal videos where I use Clip Studio Paint, I wanted to try something a little bit different because I have to get used to Photoshop a little bit as well, because I'm not as familiar with Photoshop as I am with Clip Studio Paint, and it is always good to have more software options when you are doing anything art related. So to start off, I used the reference and made a background that was comparable to it but not a one-to-one thing, because my goal here isn't to make an exact copy of the photo, as in I'm not trying to make a realistic portrayal of the characters or the two people holding the lantern in the photo. What I'm trying to do is achieve the same atmosphere but do it in my own style. And because my own style is a little bit more stylized than realism, it is proving to be a slight challenge to get the exact detail correctly. So instead of that, what I did was I tried to isolate the elements of each individual part of the photo And instead of making it an amalgamation and drawing it in one layer, I tried to break it into pieces of layers within the photo and draw it in the order I saw them. This is quite similar to the way I was doing background studies up until now, but in this painting, the specifically different thing was that it was going to be a lot more detailed, and I was going to create, or at least try to create, a lot more depth in the drawing. Because our main two characters are facing the other way, the identifier that signifies there are two people there is the lantern. And because those are all elements that are in the foreground, and because the background and the foreground have such similar color tones, I wanted to find a way to make sure that that contrast remained similar to the photo, which I think, from observing and from trying to mimic a lot of other professional artists and work that I just like, is the essence of creating atmosphere. Atmosphere is, in my own words, the combination of light and tone in a drawing that conveys a certain emotion in the person who's looking at it. And when I think of it like that, I can understand why there is so much difficulty in creating every kind of atmosphere, because it almost feels like it's impossible to actually learn how to do it. And it may very well be. I tried a lot of different tricks and tips in Photoshop because I didn't have like the time to familiarize myself with the inner workings of things like the blur tool in Photoshop compared to Clip Studio Paint. I found it a little bit more complex, but I still managed to pull something together for the background. And when I moved to the foreground, I thought it would be better to block out the shapes of the characters first and then move on to actually detailing them, because the biggest part of this drawing isn't the character details, it is the lighting that reflects off of them, and that is what creates this atmosphere. And in this spirit, I tried to do my best in being accurate to the proportions of the realistic characters, but still stylizing them to the degree I was comfortable with. So because the characters are facing the other way, I didn't have to worry about their faces, but I did still have to worry about the types of clothing they were wearing and the types of light and shadow that reflected in their clothing. I had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out how the lighting would work, because the original reference has very subtle lighting that's coming from behind as well, but I didn't quite understand how to do that. So instead, I tried to exaggerate the lighting from the lantern so it would create a little bit more of a authentic look to the painting. I added more detail as I went along. I added more lighting, I added more just general reflections and general light shafts and stuff as I went along. All of this was done in an effort to separate the foreground from the background, which I found difficult at first, but then I started to slowly get the hang of it. So that's the end of that drawing, and I feel like I got quite close to mimicking the atmosphere of the original photo. When I look at a comparison, there are definitely areas where I have to improve, but overall, I think it was a success, and I hope you enjoyed the process. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.